To you, we are getting ready for a broadcast so that it is clip number 206. It's a science broadcast with some of the contemporary things that are happening. So I have told you before this how to identify the dangerous symptoms if you turn positive, and sometimes you may not know you're positive. But so if you have a fever or body aches, angepathy rudava kind of thing, you must take precaution because it could be the infection. And then what you should do is, if your temperature is low grade and it suddenly goes up, it's a danger signal. Some people go on okay till the third day, and then only the symptoms begin to get worse. Then also it is on the seventh or eighth day, symptom can get worse. Fever may go up or body aches get very bad. Then you must watch your breathing from day one. That is to say, do a breathing exercise. You take a deep breath and hold it and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can count it till, if you count it 3 times a day, and if you find that you can't hold your breath and count, then you know something has changed. Then also you need to consult a doctor. Then if you get a sudden headache, you certainly must consult a doctor because it's a danger sign. Then if you get diarrhea, it's a danger sign. You must consult a doctor. And then if you have just a throat scratch, and then it starts getting bit of a cough, and then it becomes a real you have to constantly do that, and you feel as if breath is not coming easily, certainly you must contact a doctor. So there are things that can be done early, because in the process what happens is the virus enters the cell and begins to multiply. There are things that can be done at that stage. This is a real dastardly virus, because I'm getting into the immunity today to explain to you, so that you will be, when you know your own immunity, how it works, you will be a little at ease. When you have knowledge about it, you will be a little at ease. It uses our own microsomes and grows its protein and other parts, and then it goes through into the next cell without getting into the interstitium where immunity works. This is the danger of this virus. From cell to cell, and entire cell line or entire like the mucosal lining of the nose and the oropharynx and the upper respiratory tract, all can get invaded quite easily. So we know the virus attaches to the ACE2 receptor, which is connected with the blood pressure control, to ACE2 receptor with the spike protein. So the worry is that some spike proteins are changing with the variant. That's a worry. And that the antibiotics formed against the spike protein can go and interfere with other organs. There's a body like that. So we need to know a little bit of deeper, some knowledge of immunity helps you to understand the disease. So the viral part, and then when it gets to the lung, then I have to mention that if you have diabetes, hypertension, and if you are obese and your BMI is high, basal metabolic index, which is calculated with your weight and height, if it's over 23 and keeps going higher, what happens is obese people with diabetes and hypertension have a greater expression of the ACE2 receptor. So more virus spike protein can attach to those and cause a greater degree of pathogenicity. So those people need to consult a doctor early. So once the virus multiplication is going, when the virus gets into the lung, I have explained to you how in the lung, at the point where the air cavity is there, let's say this is the air cavity, and this is the lung membrane between the alveolar capillary membrane. The immune reaction, because when there is a foreign antigen now has come in, spike protein, N protein, and there are other antigens in the virus, and the body immunity attacks it. Then the membrane gets thickened, and the oxygen going inside into blood and the carbon dioxide coming out both get affected. That's why you get hypoxia and you begin to need oxygen. So if we can prevent this immune reaction happening with the drugs available, which can be, so that's what we encourage doctors to do. So if you want to know more about the regime and so on, you have to encourage your doctor to send me his telephone number so I can send some things to him. Some other clips I can send to you. Our WhatsApp number is plus 94 77 49 59 214 plus 94 77 49 59 214, because I have done many clips on this subject. I'm also on the Facebook timeline and on YouTube. So this is my 206th clip. I have done it in English language, Sinhala language, and few are available, a translation from English to Tamil language. So if you are interested in English to Tamil language, you have to send me a WhatsApp saying, Doctor, please send me a clip on the Tamil language. Don't phone me. Please don't phone that number. No one will answer. It's a WhatsApp number. So we are at the point when the lung is involved in this immune reaction. If you stop the if you control the immune reaction early with immune modulating drugs, then you will not get a cytokine storm. So what is this immune reaction? Our body has specific molecules that are for attack against the antigen and for controlling or modulating the attack. So interleukin 6 is a well-known IL-6. Interleukin 6 is the protein molecule formed by the attack cells that if it is not controlled, it causes a cytokine storm. And then there are controlling interleukin molecules like IL-4 and IL-10. Then what happens is when the immune attack is fully grown and is enough, those other molecules begin to resolve the attack. That's how the good designer has designed this. You attack, come to a point, and then the attack is controlled. That's normal immunity. Those attack controlling molecules are called specific pro-resolver molecules, and their production is dependent on vitamin D. That is why you should have a good vitamin D level. If you are vitamin D deficient, then the pathogenicity is worse. So daily you can take vitamin D 2000 international units, or you can take a monthly dose of top-up. There's a 60,000 vitamin D high dose for monthly top-up. Then you take zinc, because zinc has an antiviral action, and then you can take vitamin C 1000 milligrams daily. There are some other things that you can take early. For that, you need to send me the WhatsApp number of your doctor. Then I give a full schedule of what it can be. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last substantive post was as head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. That's why in many of my talks, there's quite a bit of pharmacology. So this then comes the immune attack in the lung. Then comes another one. The virus begins to attach to ACE2 receptors inside the capillary. Then the capillary wall gets damaged. That is in the lung, the capillary wall. Then what happens is inside the lung capillaries, the thrombosis process begins to develop. So even that can be prevented earlier by giving certain common drugs. So if not at a later stage, you have to give anticoagulants, and that will be hospital treatment. I have already told you what you must quickly tell a doctor. Those danger signals I have already told you. So here is a little talk on immunity. You will find that in your normal WBC report, WBC-DC, that is white blood cell differential count report, you have WBC, whatever the number, and you will have N for neutrophils, L for lymphocytes, M for monocytes, and E for eosinophils. Each has a specific function, but it's quite a precise design. What's the function of neutrophils? They are the first cells that come when an antigen, a foreign invader, bacteria comes to defend. And when they come, then the body has lymphocytes Then you have T lymphocytes that produces memory, and also it produces innate, trained immunity. That is cell-based immunity, which is very useful, which is very effective. So when you have taken the BCG vaccine, which in Sri Lanka is given to every baby since 1961. So if you were born after 1961, you would have got BCG vaccine. It gives very good cellular immunity, which works very well with this present infection also. So we must keep our cellular immunity intact, and then enough rest. Then even in the afternoon, if you take a rest, just put your legs up completely horizontally at about 2 o'clock, little after lunch. Then you get your adrenergic tone down, cortisol down. If you are in very stress mode all the time on digital games, and very stressing yourself about different things, your immunity goes down. So that's why through the day, you must have a feeling of being rested in green pastures. You mustn't get drowned and nasty and angry, and all that will work against your immunity, because your best friend in this situation is your own immunity. So neutrophils, the lymphocytes are T lymphocytes, T for Tom. They keep cellular immunity going, cellular immunity factors, and they keep memory. When the infection comes next time, it recognizes the fellow who came. So the body and invokes the immune system. So there is innate immunity, trained immunity. Adaptive immunity is while the attack is going, you are specifically prepared with antibodies, beg your pardon, antibodies. So the B cells, lymphocyte B cells, produce the antibodies. Then the monocytes, the M, they become killer cells, active cells, mast cells, and they begin to produce different trophic factors, different proteins. Once the antigen, the virus, the bacterium is recognized, they produce different protein molecules called chemotactic molecules. They invite other cells to come into the site of action. That should happen. Now, in this case, what happens is, as I demonstrated to you, if this is the air cavity, when a lot of cells come, a lot of immune inflammatory reaction goes off, this particular virus works like that to create a thick membrane reaction in the alveolar capillary membrane. If it is not controlled early, this cytokine action becomes a cytokine storm, and those molecules spread to other areas of the body, and the antibodies also spread to other areas of the body, and wherever the spike protein or the virus has attached, the bubble, the pancreas, the kidney, or the heart, or the brain, some more reactions can happen. That is why treating early is important. I hope this helps. So there is the virus multiplying stage, there is the lung immune attack stage, then thirdly there is the for forming of little thrombus, little blood clots in the lung, which you can prevent also, and it, at least at the lung stage, it must be stopped before it goes to other organs in the body. So I have described to you what the neutrophils do, what the lymphocytes do, how the monocytes turn into immune action attack cells, and then the eosinophils, they are the ones who go up in the body if you have an allergy, or if you have a worm, a parasite in the body. So at that time, they produce an antibody called IgE. Then you have IgM, which is for long-term memory. So if you have been exposed to that, antigen, when I say antigen, I mean it's a foreign fellow invading you. If you have been, if you have been exposed to it earlier, the IgM has Y-shaped little spikes all around it. It quickly recognizes what this fellow is and goes and delivers it to the right T cell for T cell to get into action. And T cells, which are lymphocytes, they are the ones who really get everything into order. All this is designed and kept and waiting to get into action. So that's how the body goes into action. So we want to prevent that excessive immune reaction. We want to prevent that excessive cytokine thing before it becomes a cytokine storm. Then after that time only that the lung gets so infiltrated. If you don't treat it early, lung gets affected. Lung gets affected even beyond the need of oxygen. Other permanent changes can come into the lung. But good news is those permanent changes can be stopped with early treatment. That's why you must go at the right time. And then other thing is only 20% of people need hospitalization, and the process becomes beyond that. So 80% it won't become worse like that. So I want to get into the situation of how it has gone on in this body and this scientific debates and where we are sociologically in this time. You might have heard that that you might have heard the term apocalyptic horseman. It comes from a certain passage, but what it describes are true sociological phenomena. First one is a white horse, depicted with a white horse, and this rider of the white horse has uh, a bow without a visible arrow. Bow without a visible arrow. So, white horse is a phenomenon that runs through the world. Excuse me. And these arrows are invisible. They are philosophical changes, philosophical movements that went across the world, like Freud, Marx, Darwin, and more in our time. For instance, when they shoot arrows at your mindset, and your mind was changed. So that's the white horse. Then comes the red horse. Its rider has a sword. So red is for blood, sword is for conflict. And in recent times, terrorism got exported, but with Karl Marx's theory, Marxism and violence got exploded. But many don't know the hand of science in violence. For instance, when the Second World War was on, when Hitler was seemingly winning the war, the American president was approached to make a nuclear bomb on the basis that Germany may get a nuclear bomb before anybody else. Now, scientific facts for that is cloudy, but that was the thing put forward. Einstein was the best known scientist at that time. He was not happy about this, but other scientists prevailed and said, Einstein, if you would write to the president of USA will agree to this. That's how the Manhattan Project to create the nuclear bomb came. The head of that committee was a brilliant scientist called Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, probably the most brilliant physicist of that time. So they made a bomb with the uranium, and that was called the Little Boy. So you can understand, for a very dangerous project, they gave a very excuse me, a very playful name, Little Boy. The bomb was called. Then for the plutonium bomb, where they used plutonium, it was a bigger bomb. It was called the Fat Man, and they did the first explosion in 1944 in the Nevada desert. And when the explosion went off, it was so terrible. All the other scientists said, "Let's not do this to humankind." But Robert Oppenheimer said, we must go ahead with this. There is a scientific experiment. We must have a conclusion for our scientific experiment. But they said already Hitler is losing. We can win the war with conventional weapons. He said, no, we must go ahead. And they dropped it on Hiroshima. Hiroshima was a very big city with a lot of concrete buildings. Some people died, and some later got cancer and leukemia. Then Germany surrendered. Japan did. Then Oppenheimer said, Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, when he saw that huge explosion in the Nevada desert, he said a funny thing, a tragic thing. He said, I have become destroyer. I have become death and destruction. What makes a scientist to say things like that? When mankind saw the first nuclear explosion, other scientists said this is not a way we should go. And today we have nuclear stockpiles in different countries, enough to set the globe ablaze and into ashes many times over. So then they targeted Nagasaki, which was a smaller city. They dropped the big bomb, plutonium, on Nagasaki. All 79,000 people in Nagasaki died. That was the tragic situation of Japan. Thank God, when in 1950 Colombo plan was in motion, our own finance minister, Junius Richard Jawad, who later became president. At that time, Ceylon's voice was very, very heard because we were the most prosperous nation in Asia. Our rupee was equivalent to the US dollar. Can you imagine? Taking a 5,000 rupee note, then they didn't have 5,000 rupees. Let's say taking a 100 rupee note and saying, this is $100, 100 US dollars. That's how it was. In 1948, we were so prosperous. So when Colombo Plan meeting, it was called Colombo Plan because of it was held in Colombo, and Junius Richard Jayawardena was then our finance minister, and the Commonwealth met, and he proposed that Commonwealth countries do their utmost to rebuild Japan. That's the debt of gratitude Japan has to this day for Sri Lanka because we stepped out. We were so well heeded at that time. So I want to make a plea, one plea, see what science did. So be careful when science can become a monster. Science can be used for evil purposes. You need to be aware of that. So I was at the point, I want to get my next point would be how we need to consider Sri Lanka with a good hope. But before that, I want to get through the four causes. We need to consider Sri Lanka with a good hope, and we need to know that Sri Lanka had the ships of Solomon coming to Sri Lanka. Solomon was the best known king of Israel. He ruled Israel from 970 to 930. The ships of Solomon came to our northwestern port, which is Mena today. At that time, it was called Manthai. It was also called the Great Emporium of. So in the Great Emporium of the East, because East and West met in a Manthai port, Mena port, and all the coinage of the ancient nations were dug out from Manthai port. And then Solomon's ships took from our country to Israel sandalwood, cinnamon, a lot of cinnamon, gold, precious stones, and ivory. You will see how gold. We are supposed to have had a gold coast, and our land mass was 10 times this. Excuse me. In Ptolemy's ancient drawings, our land mass was 10 times this. And then there has been an earthquake, seemingly seaquake, in which we lost 9/10 of our land mass during 850 BC, which is the time of the mythical king Ravana of that time. That was after Solomon's time, and we lost a lot of our land. Then our land also has the largest amount of potable water, drinkable water per hectare in the whole world. We have 126 rivers. We can drink from all of it. We also have the widest biodiversity of fauna and flora. So I'm appealing to you to have a good hope for Sri Lanka. Don't curse all the time. Don't diminish all the time. Don't say country like no other in a derogatory sense. And teach our kids to stay in the country to serve the country. You know, I came first in the island in the A-level examination in long years ago in 1970 December from St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. After that, I was first and batch top in every exam in the Colombo Medical Faculty. But we had a passion to serve our nation. This is my appeal to you. In this dire time, don't constantly watch the television clips and keep criticizing because we are the government, voice of the people, vox populi, vox dei, voice of the people is the voice of God, says the secular saying, which means we vote and choose and elect a government, we have to work with that government. And we do our part. We are all equipped to be benefactors in our field of expertise. Doctor, lawyer, housewife, dad, mom, teacher, nurse. So we all have a bonus of goodwill, which I feel comes from the Good Shepherd. He has shared with us a particular talent, if I may use that word, talent. And that is the industry that we will best do. So we have to train our kids to get into the best industry according to their brain track formation and according to how God the Good Shepherd has given them. I have done many clips on this. So if you want a clip on how to choose your kid's curriculum and what might be the career that fits him, you just say, Doc, please send clip on curriculum. Then I'll send you the relevant clip. Okay, this has been my area of research since about 2013. Effect of the digital screen on curriculum, career, character choices. And I presented a seminar on the pixel screen effect on the dopamine and the serotonin and neuronal behavior to SLMA, an academic seminar in 2019. If you are academic or doctors or like to get that doc, I can send it to you. Send a WhatsApp to my WhatsApp number that I gave you, plus 94 77 49 59 214. I gave you a little detail. When I say something, I say it from a strong base of what we have practiced and what we have believed. So have a good hope for Sri Lanka. Don't run it down. So I gave you a little run up of how Solomon's ships came to Manthai. Solomon's ships also came to Gaul port. From there, that they took most of the cinnamon. If you want to read more about this, you can refer up W.E. Tennant, Ancient Ceylon. He was a governor, and there are many other sources. He was a governor of the British government. We get back to horses. So I described two. First one, white horse shooting invisible arrows into the mindsets of people, getting into them that every nation's whatever few people to take into their hands. This effort came about in 2250 BC in a place called Babel. They wanted to build a tower for their glory, and its remnants are found, whole lot of brick mass, and they use bitumen to raise the tower. So there's historic evidence for this whole story. And so there were a ruling class called the Nephilim. In that original language, Nephilim means those who fall on others, those who prey on others. They are giants. And they fell on others or forced others to make it for their glory. Of course, when few people plan to get all the resources of the earth for their glory, the global elite, the global dinosaurs, all other people become vassals. So this trend has continued. And I told you the red horse is where Marxism and other political ideologies, including science, contributed to bloodshed. Now we know that every abortion is a murder. Sri Lanka, abortion is still illegal. Abortions were legalized in 1973. Actually, in 1972, they changed the Hippocratic oath of Hippocrates says, I will not. Every medical officer has to say this, and we said it in 1972 January when we got admitted to the Colombo Medical Faculty. Dr. Austin came and gave us the pep talk, TED talk. It was not called TED talk at that time, and we had to take the oath of Hippocrates, but that was the last year. Then came the changes of the International Medical Association. In the Oath of Hippocrates, it says, I will not help women procure an abortion. That was dropped off. And then the slide of abortion came, murdering the baby in the womb, with the help of the medical profession and the legal profession. If you want detailed scientific things I have done in the ethics seminars, I was on the SLM Ethics Committee in 1995, and in the faculty, I did these ethics seminars. I have a book on it. Please write me, send me a WhatsApp number. I'll try to get you the soft copy or the book itself. Because we need to build a base of right-thinking people when societal values are being denuded. You think it's the politicians, but watch what the professionals do. I'll repeat it. You think it's the politicians, but watch what the professionals do. So let's be forewarned and forearmed with right thinking. So that was a red horse. The third horse was black color. And it is strange that the rider of the third horse, which was black color, had in his hand a pair of scales, and what that horse rider introduced were massive changes in the way economies are run and consumerism is defined. So that's where John Maynard Keynes comes in 1960. They adopted his economic theories that he unleashed in 1948. They were adopted in earnest in 1960. John Maynard, John Maynard Keynes, Keynes, so Keynesian economics. What he said is increased demand and supply, there would be economic growth unending. That is John Maynard Keynes. So in 1960, it's about roughly about 70% of the world's people had 30% of the world's GDP. Putting it conversely, 30% of the world's rich held 70% of the GDP, gross domestic product of all countries. Come down to 1990, 90% of the world's GDP was held by 10% of the elite, but elite were 10%. So at least there was 10% of GDP to be shared by 90%. What did they change? They made consumerism the go word, so you consume all you can beyond food, clothing, and medicine and housing. So food, clothing, medicine, housing is basic need. They began a massive production industry, driving on the Keynesian economics, increased the demand and keep supplying. So the digital screen and the computerization and advertisement, of course, drove the consumerist demand and supply. And so we consumed in 40 years what the world had for 400 years, in the process of which we have disrupted many ecological lines that the Good Shepherd had installed in his wisdom. For instance, most of our oxygen is produced not by the land vegetation, not on the surface of the earth. Most of our oxygen is produced in the ocean beds. Ocean beds have vast vegetation, and ocean beds have mountains higher than Everest. That's where our oxygen comes from. So when people go on saying fossil fuels and don't cut trees, there's some truth to it. However, most of our oxygen, conversion of carbon dioxide to oxygen, comes in the ocean beds. Even more than that, the pH value of the world's waters are maintained in the corals, where the dissolving carbon dioxide, therefore the bicarbonate ion, is handled, keeping the world's pH, world's fluids pH, plant pH, animal pH, drinking water pH is maintained by the corals in the sea. So corals in the sea are being destroyed by the trawlers, massive fishing industry, dumping in the sea. The garment industry itself, the fashion industry, dumps so much in the sea, ruining the corals. And now we are squabbling about carbon dioxide and global warming and all that, having adopted a consumerist lifestyle that drove the economy. So by the time it came, I'm on the black horse, remember? Black horse that has a pair of scales doing unjust economics, where the rich have so much and the poor have so little. So men completely lost the sense of being benefactors, doctors, lawyers. Our skill was supposed to be for beneficence, because a beneficent God, who designed it as a good shepherd and a father, gave us skills that we may use our skills as benefactors. Of course, we have to earn a livelihood, but not so much more than others. So you know all about the pharma industry, isn't it? You must have heard it's common knowledge. A simple molecule like amoxicillin, if you prescribe the SPMC variety, it's about 5 rupees a tablet. You whack augmentin unnecessarily, it's 60 rupees per capsule. So who makes that decision and what for? Reason is not pharmacology. Reason is not pharmacology. If you prescribe amoxicillin for a simple upper respiratory tract infection like bronchitis, that's what you should prescribe, amoxicillin. And you do the SPMC kind, patient takes it for 5 rupees. But you prescribe augmentin, and then for the simple respiratory tract infection, which happens at home, and the pharmacology is for home infection, you don't need augmentin. You can ask that from the doctor next time. You pay 50 rupees, 60 rupees. What for? So benefactors, people keep criticizing politicians, but what have we professionals done with our beneficence? We are supposed to be benefactors with our skill and with our knowledge. What have we done? So the black horse and the Keynesian economics made the GDP move into the deciding power and consuming power. It moved into the hands of fewer and fewer percentage, smaller and smaller percentage. So by 1990, 90% of the world's GDP was consumed or handled by 10%. Then when it came to 2010, 99% of the world's GDP was being decided by 1% of super elite. You know what has happened in 2020? With 1 year of pandemic, what has happened? 1 year only. 20, now it is 99.99 is in the hands of 0.01% super elite who are planning how we should live our life. So that's the black horse. Fourth horse is a little difficult to understand. It's called the pale horse. Actually, the Greek of that pale is chloros. It's the kind of the color of dying grass. If grass is under a piece of tile or piece of brick, something happens to the grass. That color, it's a deadly plow or deathly color. So that horse's rider has the name Death, and what follows it is sword, famine, plague, and pestilence is mentioned specifically. And of course, it says beast. So all kinds of, I told you, global elite who are like Nephilim, who are building the Tower of Babel. So the original word Nephilim means those who prey on others, those who fall on others. So the world's economies are in the hands of a few. So now, truth is out how the virus leaked. It was known from the beginning because this virus has four amino acids that never come together in a normal protein. The spike protein has 4 amino acids that never come together in a normal protein because all 4 are positively charged. Never, never. In a naturally made protein, do 4 positively charged amino acids come in sequence. So that's it. So I've done a few things. What else would I like to say? What I would like to plead with you is just how would you like to work with the Good Shepherd in your life? We can see what we have done to the world and its resources, how unequal the distribution is, and such a ravaging disease, and no medical mandate how to treat, isn't it? Preventable deaths, and it's not being done. So it's a tragic thing. I have written a lot about it. I can send you also, but quite a bit of it is quite argued out pharmacology, something any layman can understand. My training was in, my research has been so far in, I told you, the digital screen for the last 6 years, the pixel effect, dopamine, serotonin effect on the brain. Then I have done some research on levodopa and Parkinsonism, and I have published on PubMed. I have done research on NSAIDs, low-dose aspirin, migraine, irritable bowel syndrome, all serotonin-based diseases, and on the pharmacokinetics of anti-epileptic drugs. So why I give you this background is what I say is from a scientific basis, not conspiracy, not prejudice, not ignorance. But we need to consider how we work with the Good Shepherd. So in his scheme, I'll finish in 5 minutes. In his scheme, position number 1 is resting in green pastures. What is that? I'll do a full next talk. Maybe I'll do on this, the 8 stations of life. Resting in green pastures. That's your learning level. That's your field of beneficence. No thorns, no poison. It has boundary. That's your family. That's your children. Their children's children. The green pastures. Resting. Next one is leading to the next resources. It's called still waters or water holes in the animal husbandry agriculture economy. Resources for water holes. So you have to lead, but you have to lead in a way you don't lose what you already had. Third position is place of restoration. Who can get it right for you? What went wrong in marriage, in personal life, handling children, in finances, economies, micro level, personal level and macro level, place of restoration. When nations fight each other, when Tamils and Sinhalese kill each other, so long, where is reconciliation available? Where is restoration available? We grew up in a school which had all racial streams together. We played cricket together. We studied together. It's a great school. It's called St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, and our motto is Esto Perpetua. But actually, it is a shortened form of the whole thing. It meant all things will be done to the glory of your name forever and ever. Esto Perpetua means forever. Forever who? For the glory of the one who designed and gave us life. That's the college motto, really. Bishop Chapman was our founder. I was talking to you on the green pastures and then the resources that you have to lead into carefully, lead your next generation into, and you're a leader in your family first. That take time in the home. It's a big section. I have done many clips on it. So please, again, if you want any more of my clips on those subjects, you just have to send me a WhatsApp number to +9477 4959 214 and say on this topic, mention the topic, we will get it to you. So the third station is this place of restoration, all needed. And we need a good shepherd to diagnose for us what went wrong. And we need a good shepherd to lead us into, so what will the place of restoration do? It leads us into paths of righteousness, paths of rightness. What are they? They give our maximum without infringing on the rights and possibilities others have. What are paths of rightness, paths of righteousness? Our avenues for growth without infiltrating, infringing, transgressing, trespassing into other people's avenues of growth. So that's why we have this forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. What is trespass means? When we made forays into other people's lives, incomes, opportunities. So the Good Shepherd provides for all fairly. So 4 things I have mentioned: green pastures, water holes of new resources, place of restoration, absolutely must. Even daily we need it with the help of the Good Shepherd. 4th one, paths of rightness that provide for us growth, development, destiny, and future without violating the paths of others. It has 4 other sections. What happens in the valley of the shadow of death, like COVID, when all life, all values, what we knew as the old world is, quietly going into grief, isn't it? But that's for another day. Thank you for listening. Please share this clip with others.